Hi. Today is Monday, so we are doing a Lex Talk fashion as we do every Monday, and today's aesthetic is corporate goth. I'm sure you figured goth, but did you figure corporate goth? Yes, so if you're new here, hi, I'm Lex of Let's Go Every Day. What we do here is we talk about fashion. We talk about, sorry, we're crooked. We talk about how fashion plays into society, into the patriarchy, which we are all sadly trapped under, and how that kind of just goes along with our life, why we make the choices we make, like our corporate goth girlies. And yeah, that's what we do. And then on Wednesdays we do the makeup look based on the aesthetic. And on, sorry, we're crooked again. And then on Fridays we do the lookbook. So, like I said, today is the corporate goth lookbook. So get ready and let's do it. So, the corporate goth. The trend being black turtlenecks, sleek boots, minimalist occult jewelry, leather, and yeah, basically goth goes boardroom. Here's the thing, right? So why now? So as this sort of aesthetic, this goth aesthetic starts to become a little more mainstream, see Wednesday or what we do in the shadows, that sort of thing, goth becomes more palatable as power dressing. So we have our power suits, right, for our powerful women, and then for our alternative women, we have the goth, the alternative power dressing, right? So sadly, of course, as we know, there's the patriarchal influence. When it comes to goth, here's what I'm going to say. When I did goth last year, like as a lookbook, I did like summer goth. What I noticed was a lot of specifically men really loved me in black. They loved me in goth aesthetic. They loved black lipstick. They loved super dark, mysterious, hold on, is this not focusing? Like kind of, goth sort of aesthetic, emo looks. And I was genuinely confused because what I understood was that men are constantly saying, oh, you don't need makeup to be beautiful. You don't really need makeup. Oh, you're like catfishing when you wear makeup. All this like really horrible things that, take away women's creativity when she does her makeup or dresses a certain way, that sort of thing, right? But now I was suddenly faced with all these men who were very attracted to me specifically when I started sharing my gothic lookbook and the gothic aesthetic. And I had never specifically been a goth girly, but I would be lying if my wardrobe didn't lend itself very easily to be alternative and gothic and dark and mysterious. And that is because, one, black is just always in fashion. But two, there's always been a side to me that has that sort of rebellion. And so goth to me has always been a look of rebellion, a look of not dressing for the male gaze. With all these men who love the goth aesthetic, I was genuinely confused because this was supposed to be an aesthetic that pushed men away, that scared men away, that kept men from interacting with women or, people who are femme, so that they can live their life without being fetishized or objectified, that sort of thing. And yet here we are, and goth is somehow sexy to these men. And what I think is really confusing is this aesthetic was specifically made to keep people away from the person dressing in this aesthetic. And what it's done now is that now men seem to really love it. And I think there's something darker, something a little more sinister to it. So if you think about a woman who is actively trying to rebel, right, against the patriarchy and societal norms and the male gaze, and men find that attractive, there are two avenues of which that can go. One, they love that she is alternative and powerful and, speaks her mind and is all those things that it is supposed to be, right? Or they see it as a way for this woman who is actively trying to keep men away from her and be aggressive in that nature by, being this dark gothic aesthetic and wanting to take the opportunity to take her power away from her. And that is the much darker side of, say, maybe a man wanting or liking a woman who is goth, right? Or alternative. They fetishize these women because it's the idea that she's powerful and different and aggressive, and they can take that away from her, right? They think that she has this illusion of power, and they can't wait to take that from her. Because that's all the patriarchy is constantly trying to take power away from marginalized people. Specifically, if you want to talk about half the population, women. And so when you think about the corporate goth, there's that patriarchal influence, right? And so are you professionalizing rebellion? To be taken seriously, women must kind of sand down their edges. They can't be as goth or as dark as they want to be. It still has to be professional. And so this whole cool girl CEO has this myth of you can be alternative, but only in a marketable, palatable, non-threatening way, right? And so there's this fetishization of darkness, right? This mysterious woman who are exoticized, and therefore, because she has been objectified in this way, she is not actually empowered by this look. I will say, however, there's the feminist rebuttal of this, which is exactly what I've said, right? The whole purpose of it was not to dress for the male gaze. It is purely about power and strength and being, as a goth, unapproachable, but also unapproachable to protect your own power, right? And so to keep the teeth in goth, if you will, you could still rebel in certain ways, right? Everyone's wearing these crosses now because we have our Christian nationalism and all this other bullshit where religion is not supposed to be in the government, but is now kind of all-encompassing our society of, like, there's only one religion you can be, but in her way, she can wear a pentagram instead, right? And so this is an act of rebellion, of just blatant, I laugh in the face of your gods, right? So, which is, yes, cheers to that. And then, just be unapologetic about it, be bold, and, reject that respectability, right, aspect of why must subculture be sterilized for the office? Still be professional. And no matter what you look like and what you wear, you're still capable of doing what they hired you to do. And so you should still carry a bit of rebellion with you. I know that black lipstick is so alternative. But if I may, I do feel like goth is going to be, sadly, very much in fashion, in vogue next season, come into the summer, into the fall sort of thing. And I say unfortunately because when things become mainstream, they lose their teeth, right? They lose their venom, their shock value. This is just, and that's to say, this is just another way that society takes that power from women and from that culture, right? The subculture of goth and that aesthetic. I guess the big question here is, can counterculture aesthetics survive capitalism? Or do they always have to be defanged? Let me know in the comments below what you think about corporate goth, what you think about goth in general. If you view goth as a sexual, sexy sort of thing, or if you like the idea and you love goth because of the rebellion, not to take power away, but to empower that alternative subculture. But yeah, let me know what you think. Wednesday, I will show you how to do this makeup look, and then Friday, we are going to do a corporate goth lookbook, so stay tuned for that. Anyway, I hope you have an amazing day. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and as always, I will see you in the next one. Until next time. You might have won.